on this episode of Ask the Pros Business, got someone here, very enthusiastic, also on his own podcast as well, Billionaires in Boxes. But when I first heard Billionaires in Boxes, I was like, oh my God, this is, I've never heard of this, but this guy is amazing. Spoke to him earlier on. He's doing an amazing job as well. So Phil, welcome to Ask the Pros Business.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, great, son. Good. On the show, we always start from the beginning. So do you want to tell the listeners, the viewers, a bit about yourself, who Phil is and how Phil growing up?
Sure thing, man. I'm the founder and CEO of Billionaires in Boxes. Billionaires in Boxes is a authority broadcasting network, which essentially is a really posh way of saying that we help people find a voice. So I'm a big firm believer in that there are too many fake sheikhs. There are too many people sort of seen as influencers and authorities at the top of our industries that shouldn't be there. They're there because of who their parents were. They're there because the media like them. And actually, they don't know enough. Meanwhile, there are really good, hardworking entrepreneurs and business owners who are very good at what they do, but not enough people know, like, and trust them. So we at BIB like to be that spotlight and help put the right people in the right places. Me growing up, dude, I was a nightmare. So I'm like many entrepreneurs, I didn't fit into the school system. I didn't actually enjoy any education at all. So I got kicked out of school when I was about 14. I was a nightmare in school anyway. I had no formal qualifications. And then I eventually got to sort of my early 20s and started studying first vocationally, kind of part-time through a job at university. And I loved it. Like, I loved university. I loved studying things that I was interested in. It kind of ignited a fire and a passion for education and learning, because I think before we had the current, I'm not a big fan of it, so let's call it the current indoctrination system of the education system we have at the moment, which is remember this fact and just spew it on the exam. We had mentors and we had storytelling. And in essence, they're the two things that I love the most about podcasting. And I feel like as a small business owner that kind of had to struggle through a lot of these things myself, one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping people from all over the world to meet the best mentors, meet the best entrepreneurs. You don't always have to redesign the wheel. Somebody out there has already solved the problem has a solution to the problem that you're currently experiencing. And it's just about having a platform that brings all of those people together.
Cool, brother. Love that. Nice one. But you just mentioned that you love studying, when you were in school. Yeah. What did you study in school?
At university, so I've done a couple now. So I've got a law degree, I have a surveying degree, and then I also started looking at organizational and institutional psychology. I also have a master's equivalent for my CIPD, which is HR study, essentially. I just love the study of people, in essence, brother. I never used my surveying degree properly at all because I graduated with it just as the property market fell off a cliff. But I enjoyed it was more the form of study at university than it was the subjects initially. So in school, it's kind of remember this because I tell you to, right? Here's this fact, write this down, commit it to memory, and then be able to regurgitate it on an exam. But you're learning about stuff that has often no relevance to your life, or you're not going to use that bit, or when you ask the question, why am I learning this? The answer that used to come back was because I told you to. And that's like the worst thing in the world to say to me. I'm one of these people that if you tell me I can't do something, I will commit far too much time and energy to proving you wrong. Whereas at university, it was completely different. I mean, the attitude was almost look, this is what you're supposed to be learning. There are different opinions based on this. Go and have a read about those opinions, see which one you resonate with the most, and be able to either in person via presentation or in written form, be able to compare the strengths and merits of each argument and each opinion. And I love that because that was fascinating, because it took you out of the mindset of, well, I think this, so I must be right, to, oh, actually, there can be value in multiple opinion points, even if they're contradicting each other. And that's quite a nice skill set to be able to have, to kind of sit back and observe something and be able to say, okay, just because it's different to the way I would have done it, doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah, Phil. Seeing that you've probably read a lot, and studied a lot of different stuff, but growing up, what were you motivated by growing up?
Football, um, sport. That was all I ever wanted to do, and which is probably why I was such a nightmare in school, because I was playing for academy sports relatively young age, and from a young age, and my attitude was just, "Well, I don't need, what am I going to need Pythagoras' theorem for? What's that? Algebra. There's no algebra in football. Like, I don't need to know this. Why am I dissecting a frog? Like, when am I ever going to do this again? And that was kind of my attitude towards the education system. But that said, the education system isn't designed for creative, enthusiastic people. It's designed for people to kind of come in and they mold you into a shape, and off you go and do it. And I think I quite often find it incredible. I mean, there are successful entrepreneurs from every walk of life, but I quite often find it amazing just how many successful entrepreneurs didn't fit into that mainstream education system. But sport really is what kind of got me out of bed. It was what taught me my initial lessons in life. And there are a lot of things to this day within my business that I still use that I learned in sport. I'll give you a really obvious one. You know, my team, as we grow remotely and we grow globally at the same time. So I never understood that whole logic of start a business, dominate a local market, then move into another one, then do well there, then move into another one, then do well there. Never got that. I never understood why I needed to do that. It's like, well, why can't I grow in Japan, Australia, the United States, and the UK all at the same time? Why not? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. If a local economy is struggling, surely it makes more sense to have other options in the bank and other options of places that you can go and do business with. If in London, there are 5,000 people that do what you do, but in Melbourne, there's only 200 people that do what you do, you're going to get paid more for doing it in Melbourne than you are in London. So don't work with the London market, work with Melbourne. And that lesson came from sport, because local teams, predominantly filled with local players, would always get absolutely hammered by teams that cherry pick the best international players. So that was my attitude. It was like, well, why would I grow a team of people who are just an hour's drive away from my house when I could, theoretically go around the globe and cherry pick the best people for the project and have a team of people that don't need to be in the same room as each other, don't need to be strapped to a desk in an office, can have the ability to have flexi time. Warren Buffett always says you will always remain poor until you learn how to make money while you sleep. Well, I have about 10 people selling for me while I'm asleep on the other side of the world. And then I wake up and we've got another 10 here doing it. So that was the way that I did it.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. Now, you just mentioned sport, and for me, that resonates with me as well, because sporting, activities is what bring everybody together.
Yep.
So there's no racial bias, there's no discrimination. It doesn't pick. There's no cherry picking. Sport is
Nope. Yeah.
everywhere. Football means the same language everywhere.
100%.
So, yeah, I love that, Phil. Now, when it comes to picking a name for a business, as an entrepreneur, and I saw the name Billionaires in Boxes. I was like, I was wondering, how did this come about? Can you tell us a bit about, how that name came about, Phil?
Yeah, of course I can. So it was actually, I wish there was like a really nice story behind all of this. Like I brainstormed it for ages. I really didn't. What happened was, we had a number of businesses. So I had a recruitment agency, and I had a marketing agency. Now the marketing agency was just referred to as the Big Boom, because a lot of the stuff so one of the articles that I wrote was called The Big Boom. So it all became about like how you get your business to boom. And we'd won like a radio show where we were doing like a regular business slot, and we were giving people advice, and that was across Southern Africa. And then that eventually got picked up as a TV series. So we kind of got quite far down the line in terms of we had the first guest planned, like we knew the format of the show, we knew everything. And then the producer says, you realize that you guys still don't have an intro because you don't have a name. Like, you need to give us a name for this series. And I was like, oh, a name? Like, okay. And one of my colleagues who I was with was like, oh, Phil came up with a name the other day, like when he was joking about it. And I was like, that was a joke. That wasn't a serious name. And he was like, I think it's a great name. So I told them, I said, Billionaires in Boxes, because we're glowing our global empires from home, and I rarely put on pants. And everyone was just like, that's it. That's got to be the name. So the TV series actually gave us a business rebrand. So the businesses then became rebranded as Billionaires in Boxes. But what's been really nice about that is I've learned a lot about my brand from fans and customers of our services. So, people come to me and say things like, oh, Billionaires in Boxes to me means, that it's really successful people having really casual conversations with you, like they're sat in their boxes in their lounge. I'm like, okay, well, that fits. That is kind of what happens. So that's quite nice that you think that way. And then there was another one that was sort of it's almost like thinking about boxers more like the sport. And it's like, oh, well, we kind of took that as like, that's really successful people talking about that time in their life that they've kind of had to hustle and fight and grind. And I'm like, well, that happens too. So that does work as well. But it's nice when you learn something about your brand from other people. But I have to be honest, I do love Billionaires in Boxes. It resonates with a lot of people. And it's kind of it captures my kind of sense of humor and my kind of attitude as well. So it's I like it. It works. I always say the same thing as well, which is Billionaires in Boxes was originally my idea. It's not my idea anymore. It's kind of evolved and grown into this thing that I just never anticipated that it could do. I mean, some of the people that we work with is just governments and best-selling authors and movie stars and businesses that were nobody, and now they're on the Forbes list. And we're really blessed with the people that we work with. I love it.
Yeah, Phil, I love the name as well. The name is not that common, but now it seems you've taken the name now to a global brand. Yeah, and now when it comes to branding, Phil, branding the business, we as entrepreneurs, we always want to, first want to look at the nitty gritty and how to make things perfect. For you, when it comes to branding and business, is there any such thing as perfection?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think you also have to learn not to be a perfectionist, I think, because as entrepreneurs, we're always quite, we're always looking to improve things and always looking to make things better. But think of it as software, for example. Software is always improving. We're always giving updates on our apps. We're giving updates to software. We're on version 1, we've got beta version 1, beta version 2, 1.2, 1.3, and it keeps going and it keeps evolving. And you need to look at your business in that way. But when it comes to branding, what you can't do is just wait until everything's perfect, because that time doesn't come. I know lots of people who it's like, yeah, I got this business, but my website is not quite ready yet. A bit more work on the website. It's like, you're finding excuses and you're finding blocks to put in the way of what it is that you're doing. And the reality is that people buy people most of the time, especially in the kind of lines of businesses that we work with service and business to business services. People buy people. So you can, for a long time, I think most of my clients, prior to Billionaires in Boxes, I think most of my clients would have struggled to tell you my business name. They would be able to tell you that they work with Phil Pelucha, but they wouldn't have been able to tell you my business name. They'd have probably had to go and check an invoice or an email just so that they can see, because they weren't working with my business. They were working with me. And I think that when people spend so much time and effort thinking about business branding and how they're going to brand their services and how they're going to brand what they do, they actually should start and put more effort, almost like a 70-30 split, into personal branding. Because ultimately, you initially, unless your business is already known for something, you as the individual are going to drive attention to your business, not the other way around.
Yeah, cool, Phil. Love that. What you said now, is also a true fact, because invariably you're just saying that, start first, no matter how you're going to start, just start. And as you go along, things will change. You make better logos, put better processes together, a better strategy. For example, me starting this podcast, I think I started with a logo. I just went with a logo that I just did. But now, after like a couple of months, I changed the logo to a different logo, because if I don't start, I'll probably won't get a better logo, right?
100%, dude. And you know what? I think it's like most people to be successful have had to fail a number of times, right? So the best advice I could ever give to somebody is hurry up and get those failures done so that you're quicker to success. You know, the longer you wait to get started, the further away you are from that success. So just do it. Just get on with it. Just get moving forward. Just start taking some action. You know, market research is incredible. What your customers tell you is incredible. But I promise you, they will not buy your service because they don't like it. They will not buy your service because it's too expensive. They will not buy your service because they don't know, like, and trust you. But they're not going to refuse to buy your service because they don't like your logo. That's never happened.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
no business is going to speak to this guy and go, do you know what? I met this web developer earlier. He's amazing. Like, he's so good. I saw his work, but his logo stinks, so I'm not going to work with him. It just doesn't happen. Like, nobody cares.
Nobody cares about the logo.
Nobody cares. People buy people. So your focus should go from how do I make it look better? How do I make it do this? And it should be instead, how can I get more people to know, like, and trust what I do? And how can I get a better understanding of what my customers are currently feeling? And if you're constantly doing those two things, the branding kind of happens on its own. Like, some of the best things that have happened in our business have been direct pieces of information that have come from our customers. Our industry is currently having a problem with this. Do you know that if you use your service for this, it would be a real game changer? Great, thank you for telling me. So they tell me, we then go and say, well, it might just be one person. This actually happened with a venture capitalist recently. So I said, okay, well, this might just be one person. So all of my team for a week lined up calls with venture capitalists of a similar size based in their regions, geographical regions that they sell to and that they manage. And we said, is this currently a problem of yours? Well over 90% said yes. We then said, here, if we put this in and we change one of our services to include this and this, would that solve that problem for you? Yes. And it was like, okay, wow. You know, I had another one the other day. I was on speaking on an EdTech Innovators, Education Technology Innovators global podcast, global conference, like a summit kind of thing. And we were talking, and one of the things I said, one of the questions that came back was, could you do that for teachers? Could you do a continuous professional development course for teachers to teach them how to create better content for their students digitally? And I said, yes. I literally got about 70 LinkedIn connections in the next 2 minutes. So they'd listen to me talk, and I'd had maybe 10 to 15 people go, yeah, he's worth a conversation. Then the second somebody touches that, which came from a question in the chat, bing, 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 bing. So I've just been told by the leaders of that field globally that that's a pain point, and if I can solve it, that resolves the situation. So it doesn't require me sitting in a room by myself, thinking head in hand with a pen and paper, going, oh, how am I going to sell to my market? You know, most honest answer is go ask them. Go ask them what problems they've got and what they need solutions for, and then provide the solution.
Yeah, Phil, absolutely, man. Just a minute ago, you just mentioned something about people by people, you know, and in terms of that phrase, you know, and when it comes to, you know, building honest relationships in business, you know, what's your take on that?
So it's funny, isn't it? Because we were having a conversation the other day about how, so I've spent a lot of time doing business across Africa, and in particular, Southern Africa. And the West sucks at doing business with Africa. And I think the reason for that is that the way that the West does business is the opposite of how they do business in Africa. So I'll give you an example. Okay. So in the UK or in the West, you would sell your service and a client will either say yes or no. You know, they're not going to go necessarily with the most expensive. They're not going to go with the cheapest. They're going to go with the one that they think, yeah, this is a reasonable price for whatever it is that you're doing. And then they start to build a relationship with you. That's why we have account managers and things like that, because it's like, now they're a customer. I want to keep them as a customer. So now we're going to build a relationship with them, and they're going to bother to build a relationship with you. But it's almost like, I don't want to build relationships with 5 or 6 suppliers. I just want to build a relationship with the one that I work with. Flip that to Africa. Africa won't do business with you unless they know, like, and trust you. So they will actually prefer to say no to what is a better service on paper. If they didn't feel like they have a relationship with you, they're going to go with the person they have a relationship with. You know, a phrase that I get a lot across Africa, and I know a lot of other people do, is, no, I like you, we should do business together. But that isn't based on a service or offering I do. That's based on the fact that they've resonated with me. I've resonated with them. So now we're going to find what business opportunities there are together. So relationship building for me is at the heart of everything we do. It's key. And they're the customers you want to work with as well. Like we've all, as small business owners, we've all worked with customers that we really wish we hadn't. The people that are a real headache, or they don't pay you properly, or they're just a nightmare. And as much as we can say, well, some people will take the blame on themselves and say, well, that was my fault, I shouldn't have worked with them. Other entrepreneurs will blame the customer and they'll be like, no, it was their fault because they didn't pay and they did this and they did. Look, the reality is the fault lies with the fact that you didn't build a better relationship with them beforehand. Because if you spend time with somebody and build a relationship, just like when you're dating somebody or you're starting with a new friend, you know very quickly, like within a few minutes, like this is someone that I want to spend more time with. This is somebody that I resonate with. Or the opposite, this guy's a muppet. I don't want to speak to him again after this, or I'm really not sure about how they do business. So just do yourself a massive favor and invest in that time. I mean, that's what podcasting is great for. Invest in that time to build a relationship with somebody prior to doing any business with them, because then you're going to know who you resonate with. And I say this to our clients all the time, which is why if you put yourself out there in podcasting, on guests and on your own shows, not only are you going to have the opportunity to build relationships with the people you're speaking with, but everybody listening is getting to have the opportunity, just like they're in the room with us, to decide whether they resonate with us or not. And if people are listening to this going, Phil sounds like he's on to something, I want to go and have a conversation with them, then they'll get in touch with me. But likewise, if they're going, this guy is nonsense, like he's nuts, he's not talking sense at all, then they're not going to get in touch with me. But both of those things are good for my business, because I don't want to work with the people who think I'm nuts. I want to work with the people that resonate with this and go, I get it. Yeah, I'm on that. So relationship building for me is like the number one skill that you need within business, because nobody wants to be the best kept secret in business.
Yeah, Phil, absolutely. And to add to that, for me, relationship is the new economy, because by the time you're close to the person, you're being relatable as well. I guess you guys will be able to do business for a long time, long time.
Yeah, customer for life. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? One of our clients in New Zealand is a customer experience professional. He's an expert at it. He's great coach. And he says the same thing. He's like, it's incredible how many businesses spend so much money to acquire new customers, but then forget all about the customers that they have when they're here. It's like, how many times do you see companies offering, special discounts to new customers, but they're not offering the same rates to their existing customers? It's crazy. Like, you've already invested money into these people. These people have already said yes to you. You should be doing more to appease them, not less. You should make, you should have it so that every year you're working with a company, they're getting more and more from you, because now why would they want to leave? Because if you're 3-4 years down the line and it's better than any rate that any new customer coming through the door is ever going to get, because they've got 4 years worth of loyalty with you, that makes far more sense. But the reality is the opposite is usually what happens. It's usually, well, you've been with us for 4 years, we're just getting your direct debit in every month. We don't even think about you anymore.
Yeah, Phil, absolutely, man. Example, the insurance companies. Yeah, when you're with an insurance company, and insurance run out.
Yeah.
They don't, when they renew the insurance, they don't even give you like a bonus, like a discount. They don't even care. But if you're a new customer, they tend to give you some freebies, some discount.
Yeah, have a 3B and have 3 months where you don't have to pay. And it's like, where's my 3 months?
Yeah, that goes with Sky as well. You can be with Sky for 4 years, and you ring them and say, you know what, I've been with you for 4 years now, and I'm leaving to a new provider. Like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, what can we do for you to keep you? But what about sending that customer a message every year and say, you know what, since you've been with us for like a year, we're going to reduce your bill with £10, with £5, and just make it good for the customer. But they don't. They just leave you because they already have you. Don't.
100%. That's it. And I never understood that logic.
I think for me, the best way, to go with this is for businesses, to look at customers they already have, and customers they already have.
Absolutely. And you know what? look at turning customers into super fans. Look at turning customers into advocates and ambassadors of what you do. Because if you start looking at customers that way and saying, actually, this customer here, I'd love 10 more of customers like that. That'd be brilliant. Well, the adage is that everybody knows 6 people like them. So if that person feels compelled to go out and tell the 6 people that they know, you should really get on board with this. This company is really good. They're really good to me. They treat me well, good service, blah, blah, blah. You're going to find more people. You can say it till you're blue in the face. I found that we can go out and say, here's our results. Here's what we do, right? Here's what it's achieved for people. And some people listen and most people don't, because the reality is, nobody wants to hear you saying, well, we do this and we're good at this and we're good at this. But if I have customers that go on podcasts and when they say the same thing and they say, oh, we're working with them and we achieve this, I said the same thing and it had a completely different impact than when somebody else says it. So it's like, if I was a chef at a restaurant and I said, you should come in and eat my food, it's the best. You're going to think 2 things. Number 1, you're going to think, yeah, maybe it is. And number 2, you're going to think, he's a bit arrogant, isn't he? Just telling me his food's the best. Whereas if you go and eat at that restaurant and that food is amazing and you go and tell all your friends, like, I went there and the food is the best, they believe you because you've got no reason to lie. You've got no bias. So the focus for me needs to change from stop trying to focus on winning the new customers and instead try and turn your current existing customers into advocates and into super fans who feel compelled to go out there on your behalf and say to people, you should be working with them.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. I think it's good to give them the perfect customer experience.
Yep, agreed. Well, what is the perfect customer experience? But because ultimately that continues to need to evolve. But I think if it remains a focus of yours, then you're already one step better than 90% of the companies in the industry who don't care about them once they're a customer.
Another thing that kind of resonates with me with this is that we as podcasters, we tend to interview a lot of guests.
Yep.
Now, the whole idea for me personally, I would say that, not just having the guest, but also going further to be, relatable, have good relationships and do things more than just podcasting.
Yep.
But in the past, couple of months or years, stuff, I've kind of like noticed that, maybe podcasters, you get a guy on your show, he comes on the show and leaves the show and that's it.
Yeah.
But I think for me now, the mindset is, get on the show, and try and build relationship and do other things as well, because there's so much value in that and we leave so much value behind.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other thing that a lot of people didn't do with podcasting, which always confused me, is it's kind of you do the interview and then you release it, but then that's it. There's never anything else from there, which I never really understood. Whereas it's like, if you spent the time with that person, they've invested time with you, you should be doing a joint marketing effort. You should be pushing this stuff out together. You should be putting sound bites out. You should be tagging each other in posts. You should be engaging more people in conversation. They should, every guest I have that I resonate with, we will get typically 2 or 3 additional guests from that person, because I'll always say, who do you know that should be helping me with this? And they'll go, oh, you should speak to this person and this person. And key relationships come from there. But I think a lot of it, I'll give you an example away from podcasting. A client of ours, he's fixed this now, but a client of ours, he was a speaker for many, many years. And he would do all of these exhibitions and events, and he was really good at speaking, but it would never translate into business, ever. And he said to me, like, I don't understand why I never win any business from this. Like, why does the phone never ring? Like, I keep getting booked and paid to speak at these events, so I must be doing something right. But what is it I'm doing wrong? So I said, send me a link to some of this stuff. Now, I could tell in the first one what he'd done wrong, but I watched another 10 just to be sure. And he did it on every single one. And it was more what he didn't do. He didn't give anybody a call to action. He didn't give anybody somewhere to go. And one of the first rules I was ever taught in marketing is if you don't ask somebody to do something, they won't do it. There's a reason that all these websites are like, click here. There's a reason all these YouTubers are saying, subscribe, like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. There's a reason they tell you to do that. Is because people are inherently lazy. They're sat enjoying the content. They're learning from it. But unless you give them an action point, unless you give them something that, okay, I've listened to this guy present, I found it really interesting. Now what? Well, if you don't give them that now what, Nothing's ever going to come of it. Whereas if, even just a throwaway line, if you have enjoyed this and would like to continue the conversation with me, I'm going to be at the back of the room now for 30 minutes, or on screen is my phone number on my LinkedIn. If you've enjoyed this, just connect with me on LinkedIn and we can pick up a conversation in your leisure. Watch what happens. Ping, 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 ping. You're not selling them anything. You're not manipulating them. It's just giving someone a location to go. It's like, okay, you're interested. How can we find you? And since that started happening, he's like 10x this business, because like clients are now going, oh yeah. But if you don't ask, you won't get. And I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, and to add to that, Phil, a closed mouth is a closed destiny, right?
It's 100%, brother. 100%.
Yeah, Phil. So, in terms now you're bringing your brand, into business, doing all that, in terms of starting the business, up to where you are right now, what would you say is the best advice you've gotten, that have gotten you this far now?
Yeah, there's two. Stop listening to the opinions of idiots would be the first one. If somebody hasn't achieved something, don't let them tell you that you can't achieve it. So all those people telling you that you can't be a millionaire, and all those people telling you that you can't have a Ferrari, unless they drive a Ferrari, don't listen to them. It's a lot of people will tell you stuff out of love, like family members will tell you stuff, and it's meant out of love, right? But it's bad advice is bad advice no matter where it came from. Like, they could give you bad advice and say it in a loving way. But like, think about your parents. Like, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, yes, it does. It's paper. You can't have everything you want in life. Yes, you can. You just have to have something that fuels and facilitates that. So none of this is true. Like, all the stuff we were taught is not true. You can have anything you want. You can achieve anything you want. The only obstacle from you achieving what you want is the time and effort that you put into it. That's it. That's it. There's no other barriers except the ones that people have up here. The final piece of advice that I would give, and because it's one of my favorites, is make more decisions with your heart and less with your head, because your head doesn't know any more than you do.
Yeah, I like that. I love that, Phil. Yeah,
it's one of my favorite pieces of advice, and I describe it as I try on emotions. So I'll sometimes do it through meditation. Sometimes I just do it through sitting quietly or listening to some music. But I will try on emotions and feelings. So what I mean by that is if I have a decision to make in my business, in my life, whatever, I will sit and I'll think about the different scenarios, sit about the different options I could take, what are the different routes. Even when things happen like that are negative, like I had a situation with somebody in my business and they were going through a really difficult time, and they were just dropping the ball all over the place with work. Like, it was making a complete mess, to the point where I was practically spending a good period of my day cleaning up messes that they were making. And a lot of my mentors that I spoke to were just like, get rid, get them out of the business, get them out of the business. And I was like, I don't want to do that. It doesn't sit right with me. So I went and meditated on it, and I meditated about how I would feel if I let them go out of the business. And I meditated on how it would feel to allow the situation to carry on as it is. And I thought about how I would feel about giving them a couple of weeks off, go recover, get themselves in a better position, and keep the door open for them. And I made the decision based on the one that gave me the best feeling. If it didn't feel right, I wasn't going to do it. So I made a decision on the one that felt right, and it ultimately ended up being the right decision. But provided I can justify making a decision on how it feels, like I always say the same thing about, like, I want to be able to sleep at night as well as make money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but it's not like I want to go and set up a Ponzi scheme and just take everybody's money. Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. That wouldn't feel right for me. And once you get that right and you understand how those things work together, it's making more decisions with the feeling rather than with your head, because trying to work stuff out logically, it's like trying to work out the best way to get to somewhere that you've never been. Like, you don't know. Like, you don't know the way. You've never been there. So your decisions are probably being made on paradigms or decisions or thought processes that have been given to you by other people. You're carrying around all these opinions of all these other people, and you're making so many decisions based on those opinions. But those people aren't there when your business crashes. Those people aren't there when you need some help or you need a hand up. You have to be self-sufficient and stand on your own 2 feet. So if you can justify every decision that you make because it was the decision that felt best to you, then you know you're at least on the right path for you, and just be able to dismiss those other opinions and other feelings.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. And we also have to be true to ourselves as well.
$100%.
And you have to tell yourself the truth, because when things are not going wrong, you don't want to sit back and keep doing the same thing all over again. You have to tell yourself the truth and make any changes. If that's what's going to make things better. So
100%.
Phil, now as a business owner, running your business, and all that, customer service as well, what do you do differently, that would make other people come to you, for could be to help them strategize their business and all that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that, why do you want people to come to you as a business owner to help them, grow their businesses?
Good question. So I like to help people that found themselves in the position that I found myself in, or found myself in, which was that I was very good at what I did, but I had a roller coaster business, because one month I'd have loads of clients, next month I wouldn't know where the next client was coming from. And if you're credible and know what you do, and you need more people to know, like, and trust you, they're the people that should be having a conversation with me. If you just want to be an influencer or an authority for the sake of it, you want to go and sell high ticket closing courses for exorbitant amounts of money, despite the fact you don't know anything about it, I am not the person to talk to, because I will say no to you. Whereas if you are a business owner who is really good at what you do, you can help people, you do have a service or an offering that more people should know about, I'm the person that can help more people know about you. I'm the person that can give you that stage and that platform to make sure that you're becoming organically and in the right and natural way recognized as the influencer and authority in what you do. So I would say that if you're listening to this going, yes, that's me, I am good at what I do, I just need more people to know about me, we should have a conversation.
Absolutely, Phil. Love that. Love that. Now, someone comes to you and say, Phil, I'm struggling. I want to go into business. I don't know what I really want to do. I love what you're doing as well. Billionaires in boxes. I love the name. I love everything about it. And now I want to start my own stuff, Phil.
Yep.
What would be your best advice to that individual? It could be, how you started. It could be, what would be that one thing you say to that person and said, this is how I started, and this is how I suggest you should start?
So there's probably two answers to that. If you know what you want to do, then I would say make a list of the top 100 people that you want to work with and start talking to them. That would be the most basic piece of advice. If you don't know what you want to do yet and you're going, I want to go into business, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I have no idea what to do, don't do the usual where people just kind of Google which sectors make the most money and all that kind of stuff, because ultimately you're going to get to a point relatively quickly that money isn't going to be the objective anymore. And if that's what's been getting you out of bed, now you're in trouble, because if you don't like what you do, you're not going to be motivated to do it. So start with something that you're passionate about. Start with something that interests you. Start with something that you want to know more about. Okay. And then interview as many people in those spaces as possible. Talk to them, ask them the questions like, what do you love about this industry? Where's this industry going? What don't you like about this industry? What are the problems that you're currently experiencing? And you will be amazed just how many incredible business opportunities will present themselves to you with people who have a shared interest and passion with you. You're resonating with these people, and it's like business cheat codes. They will give you the answers. They will tell you what's going on in their industry and what that industry needs. They'll tell you that they're sick of, this is how it happened with me in recruitment. I'd worked internally and I hated getting recruitment calls from recruitment agents. I hated getting cold calls. Then you start speaking with other clients and they're exactly the same. It's like, I get like 10 of these calls a day. I hate these calls. So when I started my recruitment business, the last thing I was going to do was go and cold call people, because I knew from personal experience and from the industry that people hated that. So that wasn't going to work. So I made a list of the top 100 clients that I wanted to work with. I invited each of those CEOs onto a podcast to have a conversation with me. I asked them who they are and where they've come from, because everybody loves to talk about themselves. And I asked them, what's your business do? Who does it help? And where's it going in the future? Because they're paid to talk about their business. Well, now I've got a 30-minute pre-call prior to a podcast, plus a 45 to 60-minute podcast. So I'm now having an hour and a half minimum with this CEO of a company that I want to work with. you better believe if we resonate together, I've now built a far better relationship than I would if it was like, hello, I've managed to get the CEO on the phone. I do this for this recruitment company. I'm a specialist in this. Would you like to give me? No, I want to get off that phone call as quickly as humanly possible. Whereas me, I've just built an hour and a half long relationship with that person. And I'll tell you a funny story. I never used to sell to people. That wasn't what I did. I didn't want to shove it down people's throats. I wasn't trying to hoodwink people. I genuinely just wanted to build a relationship. And if it resonated, I knew that at some point our paths would cross. And if it didn't, who knows, right? I still have people that I consider clients of mine, actually, across certain sectors, that to this day, I've never actually done any direct work with, but they have opened up so many doors for me that has led to additional deals that we've both been paid from. It's unbelievable. So my attitude is I used to sit on these podcasts and I used to think, I really want to work with this person. I feel like we're getting on really well. So at the end of the show, when it's finished, I'm going to say to them, listen, I would love to do some business together, et cetera, et cetera. And I, start doing that thing in your head where it's like, how am I going to word this? I don't want it to seem like I only did the podcast to win their business, because I didn't. I did the podcast because I wanted to build a relationship. But then what would happen, like so often, to the point where it almost became like a running joke, was I'd be sat there thinking, okay, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this, and I'd get to the end of the show, and they'd say, "I really enjoyed that, Phil. Thanks. Listen, we're working on this project at the moment. I wonder whether you might be able to help us with it. I'll introduce you." And then you'd go, "Okay, so they've just invited me." So I got to the point where I was so confident with it that I would put in a line, but it was so nondescript. Like, it wasn't me asking for business. It was me saying, I really enjoyed, even if they've not said it, I'll say something like, I've really enjoyed this. I feel like we've really resonated together well. Let's link up with our marketing team so that we can get this shared far and wide. Listen, you know what I do. If you would like any support with it for your business at any point, let me know. And again, that usually prompts we're doing this, or actually that could be useful in a couple of months' time when we're doing this. Let's hook up a conversation. And now you're lining work up further down the line as well. So now you've got a pipeline of things happening and a pipeline of these relationships. So it's a nice, organic, natural way to do these things. And that would be where I would start. But ultimately, going back to the advice we gave at the beginning, just start. Just make a start.
Yeah. Journey of 1,000 miles start with a step, yeah?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So Phil, Billionaires in Boxes, what would you, for those that don't know, what are your services and what are your offerings? Like people that are listening and they listen to you and say, I love this guy, I want to work with this guy. What are your services and your offerings?
So we have anything that ranges right from booking guests on different shows to help raise their credibility and influencer packages, right the way through to a done-for-you service that is us creating a podcast with you, in adding in these 100 top perfect clients, helping them get onto your show, helping you go onto other people's shows. So there's a real range of services that we provide, but ultimately it comes down to helping you broadcast your message. Gary Vee says every company needs to be a media company first, and whatever else it is you are second. We just help teach people with the platform and strategy that we know how to use, monetize podcasting to fuel that influence in your industry.
Yeah, cool, Phil. Love that. Nice one. So now what would be the last thing that you want someone to take away from this? It could be inspiration, motivational, and what would be the last thing that you want them to take away from this, ultimately?
Do you know what? It would be go and have a look at some of the stuff that we've achieved and some of the stuff we've done with our clients. Because the reality is, people listen to this now. I mean, I've done over 10,000 hours of podcasting now. I've got some pretty cool rankings, which I'm pleased with, but I'm just a normal guy, right? I can't explain some of the things that have happened. Like, people say, how did you do that? And it's like, I don't know. It just kind of happened organically, because when you're seen with other influencers and you're seen as an authority in your space, incredible opportunities open themselves up to you that never would have, you couldn't have paid for those opportunities prior, and here they are just falling on your doorstep. And I guess the one piece of inspiration I would want to give to people is you have no idea how far you can go in an industry until you try. You have no idea. But if more people, if more of your right customers know, liking, and trusting you is what's going to set you further apart, then please start taking the steps. Whether it's with us or whether it's on your own, please start taking those steps to achieving that.
Yeah, Phil. Great job. So Phil, if someone want to get in touch with Phil, your business, Billionaires in Boxes, what's the easiest way for them to get in touch with you?
There's two ways of doing it. So head over to billionairesinboxes.com. You can definitely get in touch with us there. Have a good play around the website. There's loads of cool stuff on there as well. So have some fun. The other way is my surname is quite unusual. So it's Pelucha. So if you Google Phil Pelucha, you will find lots of ways to contact me. But if I'm giving you a sneaky bit of advice, I personally manage my LinkedIn account and my Twitter account by myself. The rest of them I don't. So if you want to talk to me directly, definitely contact me on LinkedIn or Twitter.
Yeah, Phil, nice one, mate. Love what you're doing. Love the name, the brand, Billionaires in Boxes. Doing great things out there.
Really.
And I wish you all the best in future. And hopefully someday, Phil, building this thing already as a relationship right here. And we'll tend to do more things together.
I'm sure.
And for those of you that want to get in touch with us, it's AskDproS. We're on Instagram. Email is askdpros@gmail.com. Phil, nice one talking to you, man. And I also appreciate the time as well, brother. Nice
Real
one,
pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be here.
Yeah, good, Phil.